Mark Jensen's life was a meticulously choreographed dance of logistics and caffeine. As a single father to 8-year-old Lily, his mornings began before the sun-packing lunches that had to be both nutritious and fun braiding hair that had to be neat but not too tight, and then navigating the chaotic school drop-off line. His professional life at the corporate marketing firm, Apex Solutions, was a demanding counterpart. He was a junior project manager, a cog in a large machine, but one who worked with quiet dedication and a fierce ambition to provide a stable life for his daughter. His boss, Eleanor Vance, was an enigma. She was a woman of sharp angles and even sharper intellect, a formidable figure who commanded the respect of the entire office. Her suits were always tailored, her expression always composed. She spoke in precise, measured sentences that left no room for doubt or small talk. To most, she was the cold, unapproachable leader of their department, a titan who viewed the personal lives of her employees as irrelevant to the bottom line. Mark had interacted with her only in the professional capacity of team meetings and status updates. He admired her from a distance, intimidated by her reputation, but fascinated by her undeniable success. He was just a single dad, trying to keep his head above water. She was an ocean liner, sailing effortlessly through the business world. The annual company holiday party was a mandatory social event, an obligation Mark dreaded. He would much rather have been at home, helping Lily with her homework or reading her a bedtime story. But his supervisor had hinted that a good showing at the party was important for professional visibility, so he put on his best suit, kissed a sleeping Lily on the forehead, and arranged for a neighbor to watch her. The party was a blur of loud music, festive decorations, and forced conversation. Mark circulated awkwardly, exchanging pleasantries with colleagues he only knew by their project titles. He stood by the bar, nursing a single soda, watching the scene unfold. It was there, through the milling crowd, that he first saw Eleanor in a different light. She was not in her usual power suit, but a shimmering black dress that softened her edges. She was standing with a small group of senior executives, but she was not her usual self. Her laugh was a little too loud, her gestures a little too broad. She was drinking, and it was becoming clear that she had been doing so for some time. Her composed demeanor was beginning to crack. As the night wore on, the group around Eleanor dispersed, and she was left alone at a small table in a quiet corner. Her head was in her hands. Her shoulders were slumped, and the vibrant life that had been in her earlier was gone, replaced by a deep sadness. Mark felt a strange pull. It was not a professional obligation, but a simple human instinct. He approached her table slowly. "Ms. Vance?" he asked, his voice soft. She looked up, her eyes slightly glazed over. A strand of her perfectly styled hair had escaped its place and fell across her cheek. "Oh, Mark," she said, her voice slurred. "Hello there." "Are you all right?" he asked. "It looks like you have had a long night." She laughed, a short, bitter sound. "A long year, Mark. A very long year. I am just tired." He saw a flash of vulnerability in her eyes that was so profound it was almost shocking. This was not the formidable Eleanor Vance of the boardroom. This was a woman in pain. The thought of leaving her alone to fend for herself sat poorly with him. He had to help. The party finally came to an end. People were spilling out into the cold night air, calling for taxis and Ubers. Mark walked over to Eleanor, who was struggling to put on her coat. She swayed slightly on her feet. "I can drive you home, Ms. Vance," he said. "You should not be driving in this condition." She blinked at him, her eyes wide with surprise. "You do not have to do that, Mark. Really." "I insist," he said, taking her arm gently. "It is no trouble at all. I have to go that way anyway." It was a lie, but it was a necessary one. He helped her into his old, dependable sedan, a vehicle that was a stark contrast to the luxurious cars her colleagues drove. The interior smelled faintly of Lily's fruit snacks and the old car freshener he had forgotten to replace. Eleanor sat quietly, staring out the window at the passing city lights. The silence was heavy but not uncomfortable. After a few minutes, Eleanor spoke, her voice quieter now, a little more lucid. "You know, Mark," she said, "I have not had a night out like that in a long time. My husband, he would have been so upset. He thought I should always be in control." Mark did not respond. He simply kept his eyes on the road. "We had a deal," she continued, her voice thick with sadness. "I would be the professional one, the successful one. He would handle the home. We would have children someday. We had it all planned out." A tear traced a path through her makeup. "But he left. He just left. The home, the plans, everything. It has been a difficult year, Mark. A very difficult year." Mark finally broke his silence. "I am sorry to hear that, Ms. Vance. That is a lot to go through." She turned her head to look at him. "You are a good man, Mark. A very good man. You remind me of a time well, when things were simpler." She reached out and patted his arm awkwardly. He could feel her pain, a raw and exposed nerve. They reached her large, imposing house in an exclusive neighborhood. It was a beautiful home, but it looked cold and empty in the moonlight. Mark helped her to the door. She fumbled with her keys, her hands trembling. "Thank you, Mark," she said, finally getting the door open. "I will see you at work." He nodded and walked back to his car. He drove home, the memory of her vulnerability replaying in his mind. The cold, unapproachable Eleanor Vance was gone, replaced by a lonely, hurt woman. It was a side of her that no one at the office knew. He felt a strange sense of honor, a custodian of her secret. The next morning he arrived at work, bracing himself for the inevitable awkwardness. He expected Eleanor to be cold, perhaps even dismissive, as if the events of the previous night had never occurred. He was prepared to pretend it had not happened, to fall back into the rhythm of his junior role. But the morning meeting was different. Eleanor was back in her power suit, her demeanor as controlled as ever. She gave her usual sharp, concise presentation, but as the meeting was about to end, she looked directly at him. "Mark, stay after the meeting for a moment. I would like to speak with you." The other project managers and team members glanced at him with a mix of curiosity and concern. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Was he about to be reprimanded for overstepping his boundaries? Was he going to be fired? When the room was empty, Eleanor looked at him, her expression serious. "Thank you, Mark, for last night. I appreciate your kindness." She did not mention her husband, or her sadness, or the tequila. She simply acknowledged his act. "I have something I think you should handle, the Apex Global project. It is a big account, a very big account. I think you are ready for it." Mark was stunned. The Apex Global project was the biggest account in the company. It was a prestige project, a career-making opportunity. "Ms. Vance, I am not sure I am qualified." "I am," she said simply, "and I believe you are. It is a two-person team. I want you to be my partner on it. You will report directly to me." He could not believe his ears. He was being offered the opportunity of a lifetime. His career, the future he so desperately wanted for Lily, was now a tangible reality. It was because of her, because of his single act of kindness. Over the next few months, their partnership on the Apex Global project became the talk of the office. Eleanor was still the demanding, brilliant boss, but her interactions with Mark were different. She was a mentor, a coach, and a confidant. She would often share stories of her early career, her struggles to be taken seriously as a woman in a male-dominated field, the sacrifices she had made. She was still a private person, but she was not closed off. One afternoon, a company-wide town hall meeting was called. These meetings were a rare occurrence, reserved for major announcements and strategy changes. The entire company was to be present, and the executives and department heads sat in the front rows, a clear hierarchy visible to everyone. Eleanor, as the head of marketing, always sat in the front row, a seat of power and authority. She always sat alone. The empty seat beside her was a silent testament to her solitary position at the top. Mark and his colleagues walked into the large conference hall, finding their seats in the middle. As he was about to sit down, a co-worker, a senior project manager named David, pulled him aside. "Mark, you should sit up front. She is looking for you." Mark was confused. "Who?" "Eleanor," David said, pointing toward the front. Mark looked. Eleanor was seated in her usual spot, but her eyes were scanning the crowd, looking for him. Her gaze finally found him, and she gave him a small, almost imperceptible nod. Then she pointed to the empty seat beside her. The seat no one ever sat in, the seat she always reserved for her own solitude. He felt a wave of shock followed by a surge of warmth. This was it. This was the moment. He walked down the aisle, his heart pounding in his chest. As he approached the front, the other executives and department heads looked at him with a mixture of confusion and respect. He sat down beside her, feeling the weight of the moment. She did not say a word. She simply gave him a small, warm smile. From that day forward, the empty seat beside her was no longer empty. It was his. It became a symbol of their partnership, their friendship, and their unspoken bond. Mark's career soared. He was no longer a junior project manager. He was a trusted confidant, a key player in the company's success. He was still a single dad, still waking up early to braid Lily's hair and pack her lunch, but his worries were different now. He had found a mentor, a friend, and an advocate in the most unlikely of places. Eleanor, for her part, was different too. She was still a powerhouse, still a genius at her job, but she was not the cold, solitary figure she had been. She was a little more open, a little more human. She even met Lily once, and the two of them bonded over a shared love of dogs. The story was no longer just about Mark and his career. It was also about Eleanor, about the woman who was trying to put her life back together after a profound loss. It was about how a single act of kindness, a simple offer to drive someone home, could change everything. It was about how trust, respect, and a shared understanding could be forged in the most unexpected of circumstances. Mark knew that he owed his success to Eleanor, but he also knew that he had given her something in return. He had given her a quiet, uncomplicated friendship, a sense of loyalty that she had not known in a long time. He had not done it for a promotion or a job. He had done it because it was the right thing to do. And in doing so, he had found something far more valuable than a new job title. He had found a place at the table, a seat beside the most powerful woman in the company, and the knowledge that he belonged there, not just because of his work, but because of his character. He would not have it any other way. He looked at the empty seat beside him. It was a promise, a symbol, a testament to a friendship that had started on a cold night in an old sedan with a simple act of kindness. He looked forward to the next meeting, the next challenge, the next chapter. He was ready for it, and he was not alone. The town hall meeting began. The CEO spoke of growth and future strategies, but Mark was only half listening. He was thinking of Lily, of her bright smile, of the life he was building for her, and he was thinking of the woman beside him, his friend and mentor, the woman who had opened a door for him that he never even knew existed. He looked at her, and she gave him a small nod, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey. The seat beside her was no longer just a seat. It was a symbol of their friendship, their loyalty, and their unwavering trust in each other. It was a testament to the power of a simple act of kindness and the profound impact it can have on a person's life.